we need more queer content in our lives. I think heterosexual people need more queer content in their lives. Like, I just think queer content is always so celebratory and expressive and creative and bright and colourful and attractive and fun to watch. Some of my queer friends are like, oh, I was putting dresses on at 5. I played with Barbies when I was 7. I never, ever, ever did that. And like, I wish I did. I think I can say I felt authentic the past few years, but I think, I might look back in 5 years and be like, no, you weren't, child, shut up. Emailed the head of social and managed to get an internship, and then single-handedly launched Charlotte Tilbury's TikTok page. But that was the start of everything, and that really ignited my love for the entertainment world, media in itself, and social media, and I guess queer culture.
Hello, I'm your host Ben Cicchetti, and this is Queer Talker with Zac Haniff. Zac is senior social video journalist at Metro Entertainment, and if you're anything like me, you have seen Zac and his content all over your social feeds. Zac and the entire team at Metro Entertainment cover the biggest pop culture moments every single day, including many of the queer moments we will talk about during this podcast. Before we get to that though, I have one favor to ask. Wherever you are watching or listening to this episode, hit that subscribe button. It really will make a massive difference. It allows us to grow the podcast and allow us to bring you the best and the queerest episodes every single time. So in advance, thank you. Now to the episode. Zac, as we record this, you recently attended the Metro Pride Awards celebrating incredible LGBTQ plus people and allies. So let's start there. How was the evening? Did everyone look fabulous? And were there any standout moments or honorees that really resonated with you?
It was so crazy, so full of energy and life. I would do so many of these massive crazy events, but I think there's always a level beyond that when it's a queer event, because you have drag queens, you have people working in the media, people like fashion icons, you have people in these crazy outfits, and that room filled up so quickly. I mean, it was the first ever one, so it was the first ever Metro Pride Awards, so they hadn't done one before, so that already added a kind of layer of pressure, but being in that room and then for it to suddenly just fill up out of nowhere, I won't lie, like, it was a bit stressful here and there. It was a bit chaotic. Like, I won't say the team were fully relaxed, because we weren't. I was like, can we get a bottle of Prosecco, please? Let's go. But it was really fun. And I would say one of the key moments for myself coming out of there, the Vivienne had a really, really beautiful tribute. We spoke to the Vivienne's sister and father, and they actually accepted Pride Awards on stage. And their dad gave a really beautiful speech, which really, really, I mean, if you've seen the video, it is emotional. It's so tear-jerking. But it was super, super beautiful to be in the room when that happened, because that was probably one of the strongest lines to come out of it, and the clip went pretty viral. So yeah, that was amazing. Just to be able to see that in itself was great.
Yeah, it must have been a fabulous evening, but that element of it must have been so inspiring to hear so many different stories. I always think that how I would have felt when I was younger, kind of hearing about these stories, hearing about these incredible people and their incredible contributions. And I kind of have this theory that to understand a queer person today as an adult, you first got to learn about them as a young person. So let's start there. What should I know about you as a child or a teenager to understand who you are today? And were there any specific experiences that kind of ignited your clear passion for entertainment and media?
So these kind of questions always send me a bit crazy, because I feel like diving into the past is already scary enough. I'm very much a living in the present kind of person. I do think about the future here and there. I kind of plan far ahead, but I am not someone to dwell on the past. I rarely think about the past. I don't know why. I think there's some things that happened growing up that anyone would experience. There's not something that you want to continue to look back on. But the main thing, I would probably say, one of the most defining parts of growing up for myself was that I grew up with 2 brothers. I was the middle child of 3 boys, which sent my parents insane in itself. But it was very male dominant in a sense. I mean, obviously I was close to my mum, but our interest as 3 boys was quite male dominant. We watched a lot of like WWE. we watched a lot of like anime, like explosive anime. It was quite, we listened to a lot of rock music. Like Linkin Park was always playing. It was not queer. It wasn't feminine. Like I kind of brought that out in myself. And I think that came a bit later. Some queer men, some of my queer friends are like, oh, I was putting dresses on at 5. I played with Barbies when I was 7. I never, ever, ever did that. And like, I wish I did, I wish I did have those moments because I completely skipped over me, I think because I had 2 brothers. But I started watching Disney Channel when I was like 10, and Hannah Montana, I think pretty much was the start of everything went downhill from there, I'm afraid. My entire life was just infected by the Disney Channel lore and the dream of being in Hollywood as like a child and being like an actor, I guess, as it is for any Disney Channel kid. But I first got a camera when I was like 13 years old. And I discovered like YouTube. I discovered pop music. I was making YouTube videos with my friends and learned how to edit. Like I self-taught myself how to edit using Sony Vegas Pro and Final Cut and all these different crazy elaborate softwares. But that was the start of everything, and that really ignited my love for the entertainment world, media in itself and social media, and I guess queer culture.
I never really thought about, I feel I'm quite lucky. I grew up with 2 sisters and a brother. And I was very close to, I'm the youngest, I'm the baby of the family. And I was very close to my next oldest sister. And so we were massive Spice Girls fans together. We went to Spice Girls concerts, learned all the dance moves.
Yeah,
I won't do them here. But so I had that opportunity, I guess, to kind of tap into that part of me at a younger age. And it's incredible to think that you are self-taught, that you kind of picked up a camera and you just kind of got in on it. And now you are interviewing incredible people through Metro. You're meeting amazing LGBTQ plus people, especially through your Pop-Off series. Do you remember the first LGBTQ plus person you became aware of, either in real life or through media? And then what impact do you think that kind of representation had on you?
This is another hard one. You know what? So because, again, I was surrounded by boys and everything was boyish, I wasn't really exposed to it that much. And
you're going to say Goldust from WWE, because that would be quite the, the first impression.
Probably was. Like, I just wasn't really exposed to it, and I never really had that inkling, like I wasn't, like with the Spice Girls, I didn't even know who they were till I was like a bit older, like a young teen. And I to this day, you're going to kill me, but I can't stand the Spice Girls music. Like any of that cheesy, like that cheesy pop, it just completely went over my head growing up. Okay, it wasn't a part of my growing up. And I think that's why I don't have the connection to it, because I didn't have that femininity from growing up. And again, I really wish I did, because I feel like I'm missing out, especially when they did the reunion tour and when Girls Aloud are doing Brighton, that kind of thing. But I would probably say I was close to my mum, and she adored Prince, and she loved George Michael, and I know he's not queer, but I guess queer adjacent, but like Robbie Williams, those kind of stars. And although I wasn't necessarily a massive fan of them, like when Prince died, I felt it, and I don't even really know all his music, obviously the iconic ones, but that was probably my first introduction to like a queer person in the media. And even then I was still a bit hazy. I wasn't really completely sure what that meant or how it looked like, and I didn't even know if I identified with that. I think, again, I was still too young. But that was probably the first moment where it opened up to me and I realized. And then I guess when I saw Ryan in High School Musical, that was when I was like, okay,
there you go.
Maybe that might be me. Yeah, I can relate.
Totally. And then based on kind of that experience of being in that very kind of male dominated family and that male kind of dominated culture, when do you think you first authentically felt yourself? And then when did you feel you come across as someone very authentic in all that you do? And when did you feel you could bring that authenticity to everything that you do?
Ben, thank you for saying that. I think being authentic is one of the best compliments you can get from anyone. And like, I think I have been told that before, but it wasn't like, it's not been years in the making, it's not like I've been told it for years growing up. Like it's only been, it's not a recent thing, but I would say within the past few years, I've been hearing the word authentic. But I would say pre-COVID and growing up in my teenage years, never, ever, ever. I first probably felt authentic. Maybe like moving to London really helped in 2017. Even then, I look back at pictures and I just don't even know if I connect to that person then. It's a really difficult one. I don't know if I ever will feel truly authentic, but I think everything happens so quickly. The industry that I'm in itself is so fast paced and so explosive. But I wear new clothes every 4 months. I use new words. I meet new people. I think the same as anyone, especially queer people who we're so expressive. You know, we do so many things. We have so many interests. We're so passionate as people. There's always new experiences that are going to mold and shape us to be a new version of ourselves every year or every 2 years. And that, I think, is a level of authenticity that straight people don't have. So I think, no, but seriously, I think that I think authenticity is something, it's almost like a journey. But I think I can say I felt authentic the past few years, but I think, I might look back in 5 years and be like, no, you weren't, child, shut up.
Yeah, totally. I think I agree. It is a journey. And I think day by day, you become more authentic in yourself, but then the ability to kind of present that authenticity to people. And obviously, one of the ways that we present our authenticity, one of the ways that we show representation, ways we express each other is through social media, which is obviously a big part of everyone's lives, but I feel like it's especially big for the LGBTQ plus community. It's how we connect with each other on pop culture moments and so on and so forth. So how did your journey in social media begin? And then how did that lead you to your current role at Metro?
Social media is a really, really important one for me. I mean, it was such a huge part of my life. It sounds so cringe and so insane saying it now because it's a part of everyone's lives. But I first got social media at the age of 12, which is very young, I know. But I was always, and I'm not even just saying this, I swear to God, I was always the first of my friends to be on the new app. Like before people even knew about it. I think that's a connection with being on YouTube, I guess, being like a small, tiny little YouTuber in England. All my friends were American. And I don't know if you remember, this was a thing actually growing up for me. And you may remember this. I know a lot of people in the industry will remember this, but American and UK media and culture was so divided. It used to be so divided. So songs would release 6 months in advance in America. Then record labels will see how it chart, and then they'd create a new strategy to platform it in the UK and Europe. They'd get films way earlier than we did. So they were always 6 months or a year ahead in terms of media and culture. And not just that, but like apps and the way that we communicated. And because I was on YouTube and I had mostly American online friends, I was able to get I remember listening to DJ Khaled when I was like 12. And the song where it's like, all I do is win, no matter. Like, obviously that song is so old now and it's a bit iconic. But like that song, I remember hearing that like a year before it even came out in the UK. And I used to download these tracks from these artists that weren't even big yet. But because I heard them through my friends in America, that opened my eyes to a broader spectrum and helped me kind of be a bit ahead of people that I was in my own league with, which sounds insane, but it's just honestly how it was. But I had a Tumblr account when I was 13. I was addicted to Tumblr. I mean, RIP, but that was just my life at the time. I had a Kick account. I had Bebo growing up, as most Brits did. Daily Booth, which is basically like a B-Reel of its time. Vine, of course. Even IMVU. Do you know what IMVU is?
I haven't heard of it, no.
IMVU is a virtual reality social media site. It's like you create an avatar and you go into a world and you are literally this like animated version of yourself and you just speak and chat with strangers. It is so weird. It is so messed up. I don't know if it's morally okay. I don't know if it's shut down. I don't know if it's ethical. I don't know. But I played it religiously and I was addicted. And it just opened my eyes up to this broad. And I don't know how safe it was. I have no idea. I mean, if it's still open now, if people are still using it, then good for you. I might even dip in again myself after this conversation. But it was so opening for me and so healthy. And it's where I spent most of my time. Like I spent more time indoors than I did outdoors. I had a few friends here and there. I wasn't like a loner, of course, but I was always, if they had screen time back in 2010 or 2013, like my screen time would have been way more than it is now. It would have been like 12 hours a day, I swear. I was up till the early hours of the morning just chatting to strangers because social media was so embedded in my life. Sorry, sidetracking, but going into then working in social media, I was working when I moved to London. I got a job at Charlotte Tilbury, the makeup line. And I was actually working as an in-store makeup artist in their Shepherd's Bush flagship store, which was a fun experience in itself. I was there for 3 years. And I remember just saying to my colleague Saskia, Queen, love her, she was like, what do you want to do with your life? I was like, you know what, I really want to work in social media because that is what I'm good at. Like, that is in my blood. Like, it's what I've been doing for years. Why am I not working in it? And also, why are you not making work something that you enjoy? You know? And then from that moment on, I emailed the head of social and managed to get an internship, and then single-handedly launched Charlotte Tilbury's TikTok page and filmed their first ever TikTok with Charlotte in the studio. And I was surrounded by all these like boomers and millennials that didn't know what trend to do and what was trending. And I was like, we just got to do the Bibbidi Bob challenge. That's it. That's the only way we can go. And this was like February 2020. And it was like instant. So it was great.
That's amazing. That's a hell of a kind of a first foray into it, to kind of have launched that and to be so kind of pivotal in it. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And obviously now at Metro, your role involves engaging with so many different facets of kind of the entertainment industry. I've seen obviously on your TikToks, on Instagram, on YouTube, so many incredible interviews that you've conducted with some amazing people. Can you share with me a memorable experience or interview that had an impact on you, particularly from a kind of queer community perspective?
For sure. You know, I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. I think being on the outside, especially for someone like my friends that are in different industries, it always looks so extravagant and so insane to have met these like crazy people. But it does become a part where it's just like so expected and so normal. So it's really, 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 really interesting. I always feel like people are going to expect me to say like RuPaul or Cher or like Elton John. But the people that probably, the queer people that probably inspired me the most, one of them, Rebecca Black, was so fun. She was so fun. Again, like going back to like social media and how I was kind of always one step ahead when I was younger. Like I heard the song Friday when I was like 12. I mean, it was kind of a viral success overnight, but it was a couple days, weeks, who knows, before everyone else. And I kind of got addicted and attached. And I wasn't a hater. I was actually a bit of a Rebecca Black stan. Like I literally remember supporting her and be like, yes. And this was obviously way before she even came out as queer. But to interview her in my last job and then to actually meet her in person for Metro at the Mighty Hoopla last year and be like, hey, do you remember when I interviewed you? And she was like, yes, of course I remember. And one of the lines, actually, this is why it sticks with me. One of the lines in my last role, we did like a concept called Rumor Has It. And you basically show celebrities rumors about themselves from online. Obviously, you keep it like cool and safe, all that. And they react to the rumors. And one of the tweets I found about Rebecca Black was, it was a tweet that said, the Rebecca Black and Angelina Jolie hookup rumor is so crazy, I can't stop thinking about it. And I was like, what? This is insane. This is obviously so not true. But because it was so not true, I knew that it was fun. I knew that she would love it. And Rebecca was dying on the call. She was like, where the hell does this come from? I need receipts. I need to know who fabricated this. And then when I met her in person, I was like, so Angelina Jolie, how's it going? She was like, I don't know who started that, but Angelina, call me. Like, we need to get this ball rolling. And it's become a kind of like inside joke now, which I just love and I always reflect on. Mighty Hoopla was also great because I interviewed JoJo Siwa. I think she is a new generation of a queer icon. Again, someone that has received a lot of unnecessarily hate and aggression, like on social for no reason, literally just for being themselves. And those types of people I always feel like connect more to because I feel like they don't deserve that. So I want to be able to support them as much as I can. And JoJo Siwa is one of those people where I think she's an icon. She doesn't do anything wrong. She's just living her life, and she's just loud and confident, you know, and I can identify. So good for her. But I will say, actually, a good thing about Metro is that, you know, it's a very inclusive brand. We're apolitical. We don't have a point of view. It's free to read, free to consume. A good stat about Metro is that it was the first UK paper here in the UK to have a permanent trans columnist, which is really fun and really great and really, 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 you know, inclusive and really forward thinking. But but also the team that we work in is actually mostly queer. A lot of us are queer people. So for a brand that is apolitical, for it to be kind of predominantly ran by queer people, I think is really special. And it speaks a lot about the representation in our content and how we approach those types of roles.
Yeah, and it's such it's an iconic brand in itself, right? Metro, everyone has seen it, everyone, you know, has digested it, whether it's, you know, the paper edition or whether it is online through the social accounts. So to be part of that is incredible. And obviously we've touched on a few pop culture moments, and I always feel like pop culture plays such a pivotal role in kind of the LGBTQ plus community, and in many ways in bringing us together, whether it's Drag Race and Eurovision, whether it's Heartstopper and Agatha All Along. What do you think it is about those pop culture moments that make them so important? And then we've obviously touched on Metro. How does Metro approach covering them and celebrating those queer pop culture moments?
Oh my gosh, I mean, the queer content, I mean, it's a crazy one. I just feel like more now than ever, we need more of it. We need more queer content in our lives. I think heterosexual people need more queer content in their lives. I think heterosexual content needs more queer content in its lives. Like, I just think queer content is always so celebratory and expressive and creative and bright and colorful and attractive and fun to watch. Do I think times right now are so dark, they're so unpredictable, they're so depressing sometimes. You know, I will admit that I will sometimes actively look away from the dark headlines, news headlines. You know, I work in ents, so it's fun anyway, mostly. But I think queer content is kind of what we need, especially in times post-COVID when everything's uncertain, because I don't want to feel depressed by what's happening in the world and what crazy politicians are doing. You know, I think shows like Eurovision and Drag Race and Heartstopper and Agatha All Along, like you said, like, I think those are the shows that people are going to be able to use as an escape and be able to input their ideas and creativity elsewhere where it isn't getting attacked by a certain group of people, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're right. I think having that place to escape is super important. Things can feel very dark at the moment. And if you look at kind of the news, you know, I don't think we can go a day without some kind of headline about something happening impacting the LGBTQ plus community, especially the trans community. So I think having shows like that where we can escape, but also where we can come together for a mutual love for it, I think it's incredibly important. I also think a lot of those shows have representation that's really important, because I think a lot of people have this perception of trans people, for example, that they feel that by giving trans people rights, they're taking rights away from other people, which is just such a crazy perspective to have. But it's through things like media, through entertainment, that you can show trans people living their lives, living their truth, and hopefully start to break down some of those barriers that we are seeing kind of be put in front of them. And I feel like 2025 has had incredible moments. We're not even halfway through the year, and we've had incredible moments already. So from your perspective, for all that you've covered already in 2025, what's been your standout moments so far? And then following on from that, so much to come. What are you most excited for then for the rest of 2025?
Okay, I need to hear what you're most excited for as well, because I feel there's so much happening. Like, we could talk about this for hours. I feel like you're right. So much has happened already this year. It feels insane. I feel like, I mean, we're obviously almost at a quarter way through, but I mean, the Oscars were pretty fun. I was proactively like following that race for so long. I have a huge interest in award shows anyways. I understand they're a bit contrived and a bit insane, and that a lot of it probably isn't genuine. You know, I am not a fool to assume that every single award is given out of the generosity of like an academy. Like, I understand the political standards there, but they're still fun to follow along, and it's still fun to rally behind your favorite film or favorite actor. I think Anora sweeping was quite deserved and a really unexpected spin on what can be usually quite a, I would say, conventional show. You know, a year coming off of Oppenheimer sweeping, which kind of felt at the same time expected and not out of the ordinary for a film about a sex positive, like a sex worker, to to sweep the awards, like an actual dark comedy, almost like rom-com sort of movie about a sex worker who's in this giant kerfuffle with her new, like, recently married Russian boyfriend. Like, that is so insane and so unconventional. Like, it was great to see that kind of to have an effect. Yeah, Ariana Grande's releasing a deluxe version of her album. Let's go. I'm so ready. I'm so sad. Like, I'm so ready. You have no idea. Let's go. I'm so ready. Yeah, the fact that she announced it a year on the year anniversary of the original album, I just think I was in front of us the whole time. Why did we not see that? But yeah, I think that is, again, that's a really good example of something that is just an escape. Like, that will be an escape from the craziness. Jade, I think, is an artist I saw at the Brits. She is absolutely smashing it right now. Are you a Little Mix fan? Do you like them?
I'm loving it. I saw the Brits performance was just incredible. And you were there, right? You got to see it live?
Yes, the Brits performance was extraordinary. And you know what I love about this is that girl groups, when they go solo, they don't have a good reputation for making it. Like, it's difficult. It is so hard. I think it's probably even harder than if you were to just be a solo act, because you have the expectations that you have to meet. You know, you have a fan base that want you to perform the old stuff, and you're trying to branch out. And you've also, you know, you're not a teenager anymore. A lot of these girl groups, they start when they're young and they don't go into adulthood, and then they break up, and then they're suddenly an adult trying to sell a new version of themselves, you know, and it's really difficult for them to do that. But Jade has completely smashed it. I remember actually me and my friends, because Jade is probably the most queer adjacent member of the Little Mix girls. I don't think any of them are queer, but she has a lot of queer friends. A lot of her media is influenced by queer culture. She loves Drag Race, like famously loves Drag Race. She's been on the show. There's that meme where it's like, oh, that's so upsetting. Yeah. I love it. And I remember me and my friends were like, out of all the Little Mix girlies, who do we think will have the strongest success as a solo? And I think all of us said Jade, because we were like, she, you know, they're all so talented, so incredible, but she has that element of understanding not only online culture, but queer culture, and being able to embed that into her work and use that as inspiration instantly makes it way more interesting. You know, we can just say it. We can admit that. I think I'm really excited for what she has to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be incredible. And I think the thing that if I had to say one thing I'm most looking forward to for the rest of 2025, I'll keep on the Ariana Grande theme, and I will say Wicked for Good. I love the musical.
Oh my God.
In the West End. I obviously loved the movie last year, and I'm so ready for Wicked for Good. I think.
Can I just say, like, I literally missed out on the Wicked, like, interviews. I was at the premiere, but I wasn't able to work the carpet because it was like the European release, and they had limited publishers. And to be fair, I saw the carpet, and the carpet was tiny. Like, considering how many carpets I've worked where they're like, you know, this long. The carpet was tiny. They must have had like probably 10 publishers lined up, squished together, and it was pouring it down, drenched in rain. I don't think any of them had umbrellas. I was like, you guys are in it, bro. Like, I'm actually glad that I did get approved. But one thing I would have loved to have done is interview Ariana and Cynthia for the film. And that is, and I've actually said this before on my socials, so embarrassing, so cringe, but that is probably my goal for this year over anything, is to get that interview, because not only because I'm a fan of the show, like I've seen it on the West End a couple of times, but I've been an Ariana Grande fan since Put Your Hearts Up, and that was like her debut release coming out of Nickelodeon. Literally 12, 13 years old, since Yours Truly, throughout every single era, every single stage. I've seen her 4 times live. And I think, and I truly believe, and this is a representation of the work, especially in Metro, and you can see this for interviews as recently as Wednesday, when I interviewed Ned from the Spider-Man franchise. And that clip went to 2 million views overnight, because I understood the character that he played and the lore that was involved there. And having been a self-proclaimed Arianator for so long, I know that I could go in there and do an incredible job. And I know that I would give Ariana and Cynthia the most fun time they've had in an interview, and be able to talk about things that not only will sell to a mainstream audience, but stuff that the fans will want to hear as well. And that is why, my goal for this year, like, bring on November, let's go.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, two big takeaways for anyone that's listening is we need to make those interviews happen in November.
Yes, please.
And
Yes,
then I
please.
feel like we need to get you at the Oscars in 2026 working
Oh
that
my
carpet, because
God.
that would be
I can't believe you
amazing.
just said that. Yes. Are you for real? Oh my God, I'm literally like getting hot just thinking about it. I need to go to the Oscars 2026. I think this year it was so rushed and it was so last minute. And I wanted to just kind of, you know, we're still building ourselves out. I launched the entertainment channel on Metro in January 2024. It's only been just over a year. We have over 120K followers now on TikTok. But it's still a baby, you know, it's still a child. You know, she's going into like childhood right now. But I think come around to 2026, we'll be in a much better position to, I mean, we can first of all show them that Ariana and Cynthia interviews that went completely viral. And we can be like, you know, you need us there because we're the experts. It's got to be done. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that one, Ben.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen somehow. Anyone that's listening, let's make that happen. And obviously, one of the things that I think about with social media is it kind of gives us an opportunity to platform and shape our own narrative as a community. For you, when did you realize the power of your voice in the LGBTQ plus community? And what's been your experience? We've already touched on authenticity, but what's been your experience of balancing authenticities with the obvious pressures that come from being quote unquote perfect on social media?
I mean, Ben, I do not know if I have an important voice in the queer community. I can easily say that I don't know how value my voice is to the community. I think, you know,
I can say it. I can say it's valued.
Thank you very much. That's very sweet of you. I think, you know, my perspective with social media is I've always wanted to make it fun for myself. That's always been the end goal. You know, I want it to be an escape for people that are surrounded by this dark and hard hitting news. And the type of content that I work on, the type of interviews that I do, the type of projects that I work on, the type of events that I run, it's always fun. It's entertainment. You know, I rarely ever cover the dark stuff. So if my content could just be an escape away from that, then my job is completely done. You know, if I can just make someone laugh on their phone, on the tube, whilst they're watching a stupid video on Twitter or something, then again, my job is done. Because that's all that I want. You know, that's all that I want, whether it's through a really in-depth intellectual conversation or whether it's through like a meme post. Like that is literally it. Going to on the LGBTQ plus people facing backlash, that is another interesting one for me, because I think I could safely say that I have quite a strong wall that is made out of bricks that I can quite easily hide behind, which I'm super grateful to have. I don't know who the hell taught me that. I think it was my mum. I rarely get offended or insulted by many yous that have been words against me or any comments that I've seen. And, you know, if I'm honest, what can you say to a queer person that's going to offend them? Like, let's be real. We are all so self-asserted with ourselves. We are all so confident. Like, we all stand proud, you know? We all stand proud. We all celebrate ourselves. You know, there is little you could say to a queer person to really make them feel offended. Obviously, I guess speaking mostly for myself, but what we do at Metro is that we will always shield, if in positions of those times, we will always shield members of the team. There is a strict comment monitoring system that's in place. There's keyword filters, and there's also security in house for anyone that does feel like if it ever gets too much, you know, there's places to go with like an employee assistance program, etc., etc. I think one of the things working in socials is, especially with the news team, shout out to Anna, Zoff, and Zainab, the queens of news. They are on camera a lot. You know, their faces are on there a lot. My face too, especially when I do like the pop-up interviews, like you say, but not as much as them. And they have that channel has like 1.5 million followers. Like they have, and they report on politics as well. Yeah. So that's like a recipe for like comments, okay? Just engagement in itself. Whereas I'll just get like the slay queen here and there, which is great. But they are the strongest soldiers. They are the strongest soldiers because they really can take it on, and they are the ones that have to monitor comments, and you know, they have to make sure that everything is again, apolitical and in a safe space. And most of the time, it always is, because of the way that we report on our content. It always is. But I think, yeah, being in social, it does open you up to that. But I mean, if I can even think about the last time I saw a hurtful comment, I would probably say one of my Sonic 3 interviews with James Marsden. It was the one where James Marsden, basically, I interviewed him for Sonic 3 and he couldn't stop mentioning X-Men. Have you seen it?
I've seen it, yeah.
It's, you know what? It is a great clip. I just remember thinking, while it was happening in front of my eyes, like, is this really happening right now? Because not to mention that Cyclops is my favorite X-Men. So I was like, my favorite X-Men sat opposite me, shouting out the character he played whilst I'm talking about Sonic 3. It was so insane. Anyways, and I remember just like the comments of that were mostly like all so positive and just like, bring him back for Doomsday, bring him back, like Kevin Feige, all this, like make him cameo in the next Marvel Avengers, whatever.
100%.
But I just saw one comment that just said gay. And I was like, yeah.
It's a creative comment.
I was like, if that's all you got, then I'll take that every day for the rest of my life. I'm good.
100%. That's awesome. Yeah, and it's amazing to hear what Metro does in themselves to kind of make sure that people are being protected. Shout out to Metro. That's so important.
Yeah, for sure.
And really empowering. We started this podcast talking about younger Zac, WWE fan Zac, growing up with your brothers. Let's revisit him. What advice would you offer, knowing now what you know, to younger self? And would that be different to the advice you would offer to a young LGBTQ plus person today?
Oh my God, this question is crazy. The advice that I would give to a younger Zac, off the rails, insane, unhinged younger Zac, I would say, take culinary classes seriously, because it's going to bite you in the ass once you get to university. I would say read a lot more. Use your eyes and read words on a paper a lot more. I would say make more conversation with strangers. And I would say dance a bit less. You're embarrassing yourself. And less alcohol, please. Less alcohol, please. They're not so much queer adjacent, I know that. But stop with the vodka shots. That's insane. But I would say the advice I would give to an LGBTQ person today, it would definitely be different. I think it would definitely be different. I think, I'm on the cusp. I'm 1996, so I'm on the cusp. December 1996, can I clarify? So I'm on the cusp of like Gen Z and millennial. I identify as a Gen Z, but I know a lot of people have differences to that, which is, always sends me. But I just feel like I'm more Gen Z than I am millennial. But I was still on that cusp of, there was still discrimination at school. There was 3 that I know of, 3, including myself, queer boys in my year that I know of growing up. And it was still a topic that was kind of taboo. It wasn't really spoken about that much. I came out at 16. I feel like if I'd grown up in this era, if I was 13 today, I maybe would have came out a bit earlier. Who knows? I'm not sure. But I would say to a younger person now, oh my God, I don't want to sound so cringe. Just literally do what makes you happy. Literally just do what makes you happy. Don't sacrifice a hobby because you think it's uncool, because that is very much what I did. Going from 13 into 16, I kind of gave up the video camcorder that my dad bought me because I thought it wasn't cool. Stick with what you enjoy, have fun, and turn that into a career, because that is the way you will succeed for sure.
That's amazing advice. I love that. Chase what you love, not what's cool. I think it's just a great way to kind of
for sure. Like I wish I remember actually over COVID times I was like I was so creatively stuck and I wasn't doing anything creative, so I kind of set up the my DSLR camera and started filming green screen ranking videos of Ariana Grande's songs, just for fun, literally just for fun. It was the most fun I've had. I literally wish I could go back into that time and just pause. But I remember thinking at that moment, TikTok was going so viral. It obviously was taking off. I remember thinking oh my God, kids are making videos. Kids are making videos now. They're allowed to do that and it's cool.
Yeah.
Are you real? I used to get bullied for this shit. Oh my God. I just remember thinking are you serious? Why was I not born then? But yeah, sorry, sidetrack. But yeah, I just think I think it's incredible to look back and look now and see how accepted that is for kids to grow up and be able to be on social media and make silly videos and make silly dances on their camera and make skits and be weird and be fun. I think it's so incredible. I love that it's part of culture now.
Yeah, I love that. I completely agree. We will end with our rapid fire questions, and I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't do, which is date this podcast with a question. We are recording this exactly 1 week after Gaga dropped Mayhem, delivered Mayhem, created Mayhem. What was your immediate reaction? And are you as equally obsessed with it as I am? I was literally listening to it before we started recording this episode. And what's your favorite track?
What song were you listening to before we started?
I was listening to Perfect Celebrity. I'm like, I think that's one of my favorites.
Get yourself in the mood. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so you know what? Mayhem for Miss Gaga is a return to form. I will say that. You know, I will also openly say that I was not, and my friends know this, I was not the biggest Chromatica fan. You're going to kill me. Okay. I did not vibe with that album at all. I didn't even vibe with Rain on Me. And that's Ariana Grande. So that's saying a lot. Okay, I remember the first time listening to that on my living room table in Isle of Dogs when I lived there. And I literally remember putting my phone down and thinking, oh shit, this isn't for me. So what I will say is Mayhem is a return to form. I am very, very happy that Joker 2 flopped because I think it kicked her into gear. And my favorites right now, because I do have a lot of favorites, are Garden of Eden. Out to take you to the Garden of Eden. I'm obsessed. It's so addictive. I love Love Drug. I love Killer. The SNL performance
was amazing.
SNL performance.
Yeah.
And I just have to throw it in there just because I don't want us to forget about it. Abracadabra.
Yeah. Amazing choices. I mean, literally, there's certain albums that you can just listen to throughout. Like, there's a lot of albums I listen to and I'll skip a track here or there. But this I listen to end to end. So yeah, I completely agree.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. That's great. Yeah, I will be totally honest. The second half of the album, I think it's like tracks 10 to 14. I'm not completely set on, but I do love Die With a Smile.
Yeah. Amazing. Obviously Gaga is an icon and we love an icon in the queer community. Who would take your title as favorite icon? And that can either be a queer adjacent icon, or it can be an icon that is queer.
My favorite queer icon, I'm going to say RuPaul. RuPaul's a queer icon. I would do anything to see her on a stage. I have been to DragCon a few times. I've seen her in the DJ booth.
Yeah.
No, I know you ain't touching shit, RuPaul. I know you ain't even those joysticks or whatever it is. Like, I know you're not doing anything. I know you're just looking down at your laptop or your phone. Like, I have friends that are DJs and they've told me the big A-list, super, super high-class DJs, they do not touch anything. Paris Hilton's not touching a DJ deck. And neither is Calvin Harris probably at an IB for party. Like, it's all pre-recorded and they're just there for the vibes, which, you know what? I wish I was that talented. I wish I could do that. But I would love to see RuPaul on a stage because whenever she does those, like, segments, those performance segments in a finale episode, I get up on my feet. I'm dancing, I'm screaming, I'm the biggest fan. That is my icon right there.
I love that. That's an amazing choice. You've obviously interviewed some incredible people. What has been your most, I guess, starstruck interview moment?
Ben, can I just say, I love your accent. I love your voice. Where are you from?
I'm UK born and bred, but I lived in Canada for about 4 years. And so my accent has this kind of slight Canadian twang. I am born and raised here in the UK.
Well, you're Australian. Have you heard that before?
That. I think it's the mashup of the Canadian and the English creates this kind of Australian. Everyone in Canada thought I was Australian. I do. Yeah.
One of my good friends is a queen on Canada. Do you know Miss Delicious? She's one of my good friends. She's currently filming Staycation season 2 and she's sending me loads of photos of all the queens and it's so chaotic and so drama. But yeah, Canada's Drag Race is so fun. I've never been. My friend did live there when she was doing a conservation camp thing and she was like looking after the sea turtles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was in Victoria.
Yeah. You'll be out on the, yeah. I love that.
Love that. Okay. Sorry. That was so, I just love your voice. You like, no wonder you're so good at podcasts. It's so natural.
I appreciate that.
Most starstruck interview moment. I do have an answer for this and it's quite an easy answer. The most starstruck I've been, I can tell you how I knew that I was starstruck, was at the Amelia Perez premiere when I interviewed Selena Gomez. And I know I mentioned this already, but I was a Disney kid growing up, of course.
Yeah.
I my relationship to Selena is interesting because I'm not I don't know if I'm like the biggest fan of her essentially, but her music and her art I could not be a bigger fan of. Like I've listened to every album. Rare in 2020 was huge for me. People You Know on that album from Rare was my most listened to song of 2020. And I still will say that's one of my top 5 songs of all time. If you don't know it, go listen to it right now. I cannot wait for her collab duet album with Benny Blanco. Like I think it's gonna hit. When she was, because you go to these carpets and you never know who you're actually going to get time with. You know, I didn't go expecting to interview Selena. I didn't even have a question prepared. I thought, I'm not going to get my hopes up. There's no way. I'm just going to go, turn up, do my thing. And as she got closer and closer and closer, I was like, fuck. I was like, I'm going to meet Selena Gomez. Like, I need to think of a question. I think of a question. Crap. I'm so bad at my job. So in a moment, I was like, okay, what's happened recently? And again, this comes from being such a fan. I wasn't going to be like, oh, so you know, what attracts you to this role, or why did you choose? Like, no, she's been asked that a billion times already. But what I do remember is that a few months prior, she shared screenshots from her old music videos, Fetish, Wolves, and the other one she did with Kygo. Screenshots of those music videos to her stories and said, "Don't worry, guys, I hear you." Basically, it was quite cryptic.
Yeah.
She's been in loads of drama recently with her record label, or sorry, allegedly was in loads of drama with her record label where she was forced to produce music that she didn't want to produce. And she released Love On, which is a very Lizzo-esque pop, mainstream pop, bubblegum track as her lead single for her, alleged new album. It completely tanked. And then that album was allegedly scrapped. So that was her responding to fans and saying, listen, I want to make my cool music too, but I'm not allowed. You know, I hear you. I want to go back to that route again, but I'm not allowed. So I asked her about that. She didn't give me much of an answer. Of course, she was being, again, very cryptic.
Yeah.
She was
too
like,
media trained for that.
Again, yeah. I mean, you get 15 seconds with these people, but she was like, listen, I would never say that I want to go back to that sound, but I definitely want to move forward. And she basically hinted that she was going to intertwine that aesthetic and that sound design into the new music. And now in this new album, there's a track that is inspired by Fetish, one of the songs that I referenced. So I remember actually when I was speaking to her, like in that moment, I was holding the mic. In that moment, I was holding the mic and I was, my colleague Tori Queen was filming and I was holding the mic. And as I asked the question, I actually forgot that I was supposed to point the mic at her. So I just kind of froze and like looked at her. And as she was talking, I was like, oh my God, Selena Gomez, like my queen.
Yeah.
My queen. And then halfway through her answering, I was like, oh, I should probably capture this audio. Yeah. Move the mic towards her. There you go. Luckily, it picked it up anyways. But I just remember that was the definition of starstruck, I think. Like my entire body froze. And I don't get nervous. I'm not a nervous person. I'm quite confident. I can take on any interview. But that was a moment for me.
Yeah. That's going to be the most starstruck moment until you get that interview for Wicked for Good. And then
oh my God,
that might outdo it.
I can't. Oh, I just literally basically just like, I don't think actually I'd be able to do it. Like I literally think I'd have a panic attack.
It'll be a moment.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Next rapid fire question. What is your favorite queer TV show, movie, musical, or book?
Thinking about it, I've been asked this before, you know, working in media. I will say one of my favorite queer TV show, music, musicals, or books would be, there's a show on HBO called Looking from 2014. Have you heard of it?
I haven't.
It
no.
kind of went under the radar slightly,
Okay.
but it was one, and I think in 2014 I was 16, so it was the year that I came out, and that was a show about a bunch of queers. That show for me was like, because I was just coming to terms with my sexuality, and that was a mainstream, you know, it's HBO, it was mainstream media. That for me was one of the first times that I really connected with something, and it instantly became one of my favorites. But outside of that, I would say HBO, I mean, they have it on lock. Euphoria.
Yeah.
X. Oh my God, yes. Euphoria season 1 is probably one of my favorite seasons of any television show ever. And that was before it blew up, mind you. I was not one of the people that jumped on.
You're not jumping on the bandwagon.
I watched it in 2019 when it was out. And Hacks, again, incredible. If you want a 30-minute easy-to-watch comedy that is funny, it is hilarious. About I think she's like a lesbian journalist with like an older comedian that's trying to revamp their career. It is genius. It's won so many Emmys. It is a critically acclaimed and commercial success. Have you seen it?
So I'm super excited.
Ben,
now.
I swear to God, Hacks, Hacks. I promise you, you will love it. It is so funny. It is so applicable to any queer person, gay, like lesbian, non-binary, transgender, anybody. Whether you are male or female, it does not matter. Watch that show. Whether you are Gen Z, baby boomer, millennial, you will laugh at this show and you will be entertained for the rest of its existence. I promise you.
Okay, I love that. I'm about to go on a plane in 2 days, so I've been thinking about something to download to watch on the plane. So you've just given me.
It's easy to watch. It's
answer.
half-hour episodes. It is just so fun. And instantly, I promise you, watch 2 episodes, and I assure you, you'll be messaging me on Instagram in like a couple of weeks. Like, I'm on season 3, and I'll be like,
Okay.
great.
I'll keep you updated.
And season 4, I think it's season 4 starts next week. I think
Amazing.
next week. So you've already
Perfect timing.
you're going to be able to catch up. Yeah, it's great.
I love that. I love that. We have touched on Drag Race a few times, but if you had to lip sync for your life, what song would you choose?
You know what? I'm a really bad dancer. I think when I'm drunk, I can move on the spot. I can move my hips, I think. You know, I was at a Ray concert because I was doing work with American Express, and the girls I was with, because I was in one spot and I was really drunk and I was dancing, it was when Black Mascara came on and I was like, yes, let's go. They were like, you're such a good dancer. I was like, no one's ever said to me before, shut up, thing. Because of that, I don't think I'd choose one that's like a dance, you know, track, because the Queen say. But I will say one that I definitely know all the words to, and that's Broken Strings by Nelly Furtado and Jason Morrison. I love that song. Let's go with that.
Choice. I like that. I like that.
And then I can do it as a duet with you, and I won't be as scared to do it solo because I will have you on stage.
We've got this. Yeah, we've got this for sure. If you could have one drink with any queer person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Well, RuPaul, of course. It has to be.
That'd be a hell of a conversation.
It would be insane. Like, there'd be not a second of silence.
Yeah, I agree. I
don't know if I'd leave feeling like I've been given the best life advice, or if I just feel like the highest adrenaline rush and I'd forget everything immediately. Like from
I feel like it'd be one of those conversations.
Like an amnesia effect when kids go to Taylor Swift concerts and they leave and they don't remember anything because they were so like entranced. It'd probably be one of those situations.
Yeah, I agree. Final of our rapid fire questions. Who in your network would you like to hear on this podcast, and what one question would you want to ask them?
Oh, wow. Okay. That is a really, really good question. So, you know, I have a lot of queer people in my life. All of them I adore. Some of them not so much. I think, I think in my network, one of my closest friends would be my friend Ross. They are a non-binary creator at MTV UK. I've worked with them in my previous job, and they are so talented, so in tuned with not only just pop culture, but pop music. They have their own podcast actually called We Ain't No Divas, with Sam Prince, one of those two, who does a lot of work for Pop Buzz. He's like interviewed like Sabrina Carpenter, Madison Beer, everyone. But Ross is a very talented, very interesting person with a lot of opinions, a lot of ideas. And I think they would eat on this podcast. So hit them up. I will give you their contact. I'll actually let them know as well. And you can get them on here. Question I would ask them is... I have one question, but I feel like their answer would be an hour long, but it'd be, how would you rank Britney Spears' albums from worst to best? And I want clear reasoning with a favorite and least favorite track from every single one.
Wow, I love that. Well, we will definitely reach out to them and get them on the podcast. Look out for the DM. It's coming your way, Ross. I love that choice. Zac, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I appreciate all of your input. I appreciate all of your insight into the world of entertainment. And I just actually really appreciate the work you do at Metro to spotlight all the incredible pop culture moments, queer pop culture moments that happen. I think it is so important that we have that escapism. So I appreciate the work you do just so very much.
Ben, that is so sweet. This is such a pleasure and honor. Honestly, thank you so much. It was so cool, so much fun. And I'll be back anytime you want me.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I wish you nothing but success, honestly. I can't wait to see this flourish.
Quit talking walls that winding road. Together we are strong.